Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Cha Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriyet. Nashtu Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we are continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 32, Entanglement in Fruitive Activities, text number 27 onwards. So Lord Kapil Dev is further speaking to his mother. Etavanev yogina samgrene yogina yujyate abhimato yartho yat sangastu kritsnashaha. The greatest common understanding of all yogis is complete detachment from matter, which can be achieved by different kinds of yoga. There are three kinds of yoga, namely Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Devotees, Jnanis, and Yogis all try to get out of the material entanglement. The Jnanis try to detach their sensual activities from material entanglement. Jnana Yogi thinks that matter is false and that Brahman is truth. He tries, therefore, by cultivation of knowledge to detach the senses from material enjoyment. The Ashtanga Yogis also try to control the senses. The devotees, however, try to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, it appears that the activities of the bhaktas, devotees, are better than those of the jnanis and yogis. The mystic yogis simply try to control the senses by practicing the 8 divisions of yoga, yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, etc. And the jnanis strive by mental reasoning to understand that sense enjoyment is false. But the easiest and most direct process is to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. So, for yoga to happen properly, first thing is to detach it from matter. And how to detach it? This is what Prabhupada is explaining. Jnanis, they try to detach by understanding the scriptures, understanding the material world, spiritual world, the Supreme Lord, the soul, and then they try to come to the conclusion that everything here in the material world is false. It's an illusion. Devotees don't say it is illusion. Devotees say it is false. It is temporary, but it is real. It is temporary, and it's not worth getting attached to. And yogis means Ashtanga yogis. They try to do so much of meditation on Paramatma that they completely get detached from the senses and the sense objects. But devotees, what they do, they try to engage everything in the service of the Lord, even the senses, sense objects, material, everything, material world, everything. So Prabhupada said the easiest and most direct process is to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Because even the jnanis and the Ashtanga yogis, they cannot achieve perfection without engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. Just for jnanis thinking that saying, oh, everything is illusion, it's not enough. And for the yogis try to control all the senses by 8 divisions of yoga, still it's not enough. You have to go one step further. And this is what Prabhupada says, the purpose of all yoga is to detach one's sense activities from this material world. The final aims, however, are different. Jnanis want to become one with the Brahman effulgence, yogis want to realize Paramatma, and devotees want to develop Krishna consciousness and transcendental loving service to the Lord. That loving service is the perfect stage of sense control. The senses are actually active symptoms of life, and they cannot be stopped. They can be detached only if there is superior engagement. As it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishtva Nivartate, the activities of the senses can be stopped if they are given superior engagements. The supreme engagement is engagement of the senses in the service of the Lord. That is the purpose of all yoga. So we are trying to engage our senses, giving the senses a supreme engagement, the perfect engagement. But because our senses has been since time immemorial, for millions and millions of lifetimes, now the gross senses are not there because the body changes, but the subtle senses are there. Mind is there. It has been so much accustomed to sense gratification. It takes time to engage it fully, completely, without any stoppage, continuously in the service of the Lord, favorably. Ahatukiya pratihata. So that, to come to that level, we have to keep on trying, keep on cleansing our consciousness. Jnanam ekam parachine indriyar brahma nirgunam avabhati artha rupena brantya shabdadi dharmina. Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute truth differently through speculative sense perception. And therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. The supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is one. And he is spread everywhere by his impersonal feature. This is clearly explained in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, everything that is experienced is but an expansion of my energy. Everything is situated, sustained by him, but that does not mean that he is in everything. Sense perception, such as oral perception of the sound of a drum, visual perception of a beautiful woman, or perception of the delicious taste of milk preparation by the tongue, all come through different senses and are therefore differently understood. Therefore, sensory knowledge is divided in different categories, although actually everything is one, as a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the energies of fire are heat and illumination, and by these two energies, fire can display itself in many varieties, or in diversified sense perception. Mayavadi philosophers declare this diversity to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not accept the different manifestations as false. They accept them as non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they are a display of his diverse energies. So everything that we experience here in the material world is basically coming from Krishna. Material energy is Krishna's energy. It's just different senses, when they interact with different sense objects, they have different experience. Like Prabhupada gave example of sound of a drum, oral reception gives a visual perception of a beautiful woman, and a taste by tasting something nice, or smelling something nice by the nose. So all the senses looks like they're working differently. But ultimately, it's all material energy, and it's all coming from the Supreme Lord. So different philosophers, like Prabhupada said, Mayavadi philosophers declare this diversity to be false. They say, no, this is all one. Everything is one. Well, my sense of smell is different from the sense of hearing. It's not all one. All these varieties are there. But from Mayavad perspective, everything is one. We are one, senses are one, sense objects are one, Lord is one, everything is all together, everything is amalgamation of something. But this is not how Western philosophers, they think, they philosophize. They say everything is different, and they are the reflection, perverted reflection of what's there in the spiritual world. So everything, even this, all the different senses can also be utilized in the service of the Lord. Let's understand, I know it's difficult to understand this Mayavad philosophy. Just like once when Mayavadi philosopher came to Prabhupada to meet Prabhupada, he wasn't even a philosopher, he just maybe some follower because he didn't know too much. And he was saying everything is one and this and that. And Prabhupada was sitting at his writing desk on the floor, and he was sitting across from the writing desk. So Prabhupada asked him, is there a difference between a cotton ball and a cotton shirt? Cotton ball is from where the cotton comes. Finally, they make the thread out of that, and then the cloth is made and the cotton shirt is made. And he kept on blabbering, and Prabhupada asked him again, is there a difference between cotton ball and cotton shirt? And he completely avoided the question and kept on talking. And Prabhupada just reached over his writing desk and grabbed hold of his collar with his hand. And Prabhupada shook him up. Is there a difference between cotton ball and a cotton shirt? And then he understood what Prabhupada was trying to say. Everything is not one. Cotton ball has its own characteristics, has its own utilization. Cotton shirt has its own utilization, although cotton shirt comes from cotton ball, but it's different. Just like once with the devotees in Vrindavan, Prabhupada time, Vrindavan also has many Mayavadi sadhus. So you got to be careful if you're associating with anybody over there. So he came and he said everything is one and this and that, everybody is one. And it was very cold time. And he, after eating, he was going to sleep just on the floor. And he had a blanket. So what the devotees did, they were also a little naughty. So they took his blanket and they took a thread of it out of his blanket and gave him the thread. They said, well, you are saying everything is one, this thread and this blanket is one. So why don't you just sleep with the thread around you? And it was cold. And what they say, it's funny, Mayavadis, when they have some knowledge of their philosophy. So they say, oh, this is my Leela. That is why I'm putting on this blanket. Otherwise, we all are one. So it's all mixed up, completely mixed up. So blanket has its own utility and the thread of the blanket has its own utility. But we cannot compare the blanket and the thread. We cannot say they both are same. When we are cold, we need the whole blanket. Just a thread will not do. The philosophy that the absolute is true and its creation is false, Brahm Satyam Jagan Mithya, is not accepted by Vaishnava philosophers. The example is given that although all that glitters is not gold, this does not mean that a glittering object is false. For example, an oyster shell appears to be golden. This appearance of golden hue is due only to the perception of the eyes, but that does not mean that the oyster shell is false. Similarly, by seeing the form of Lord Krishna, one cannot understand what he actually is. But this does not mean that he is false. The form of Krishna has to be understood as it is described in the books of knowledge such as Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. By our imperfect sense perception, we cannot understand the form of the Lord. We have to acquire knowledge about him. Therefore, it is said here, Jnanam Ekam. Bhagavad Gita confirms that they are fools who simply upon seeing Krishna consider him a common man. They do not know the unlimited knowledge, power and opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material sense speculation leads to conclusion that the Supreme is formless. It is because of such mental speculation that the conditioned soul remains in ignorance under the spell of illusory energy. The Supreme Person has to be understood by the transcendental sound vibration, transcendental sound vibrated by him in Bhagavad Gita, wherein he says that there is nothing superior to himself. The impersonal Brahman effulgence is resting on his personality. The purified, absolute vision of Bhagavad Gita is compared to the river Ganges. Ganges water is so pure that it can purify even the asses and cows. But anyone who disregarding the pure Ganges wishes to be purified, instead by the filthy water flowing in a drain, cannot be successful. Similarly, one can successfully attain pure knowledge of the Absolute only by hearing from the pure Absolute himself. So the Mayavadis, when they study the scriptures, because to study the scriptures is one thing, to understand the meaning of scriptures is another thing, and to realize the real meaning is another thing which one can only have by mercy of the Lord. That realization. Just like Prabhupada says, material sense speculation leads to conclusion that the Supreme is formless. Why they come to this conclusion? Because, just like in Ishopanishad, it says, the Supreme Absolute Truth, he runs and he does not walk. He is the farthest and he is the closest. There's some verses like this. Now, if somebody reads this and he has no faith in the Lord, no bhakti, no spiritual understanding, and by his own mental, which has little tiny intelligence, when somebody tries to understand this statement, he will say, I have a form, I cannot do this, I cannot be the closest and the farthest. I cannot do something like, I cannot walk, but I run the fastest. So it must be the formless who can do all this. But this is their conclusion, which is wrong. How can we put a limit on the Supreme Lord? How can we say, he cannot do this? He can do whatever he wants. And he can do whatever he wants that is even beyond our sense of conception. We cannot even conceive what he can do. Just because we cannot conceive doesn't mean he cannot do, and doesn't mean he cannot have a form. There's a picture of Kusum Sarovar behind me. Kusum Sarovar is part of Govardhan, and Krishna lifted Govardhan on the tip of the little finger of his left hand for 7 days and 7 nights. And the Govardhan, it is said, expanded himself because he was touched by Krishna and he wanted to do the service by protecting all the Brajvasis and the cattle and everything. And we have seen a picture of Krishna as Giridhari, Govardhan Dhari, and Govardhan Puja we perform. And if Mayavadi philosophers, they look at it, oh, this is all Maya. This never happened. It's all allegorical. But Vaishnava philosophers, devotees say, why is it allegorical? Our Lord can do anything but he wants. What's so difficult for him? If he can float so many huge, huge planets in the sky and make them go around in the orbit and then they're rotating at their, they're spinning at their axles and then they're rotating in that orbit. If he can do that, what's so difficult for him to lift the Govardhan hill? But they will not understand this point, and then they will refute this. They will then. That's why they say devotees are very sentimental. They think they only have the whole knowledge. They know everything about the Supreme Lord. But they don't even know. They don't even have just a fraction of the knowledge. How can they say the Supreme Lord is formless? When Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada quoted that verse, the Brahmano hi pratishtham aham, the Brahm, the Supreme Brahman, the Brahm Jyoti rests upon me. He clearly says that. But they twist the meaning of this thing. And they twist it in a way, they say the Brahman is the ultimate and Krishna is a perverted form of Brahman. Whenever the Brahman wants to perform some pastimes, so he takes the form of sometimes Ram and sometimes Krishna, sometimes Nrsimhadev, Vamandev, Varahadev. This is how they are presented. Instead of the other way around, Krishna says, Brahman rests upon me. And in so many verses it has come that Brahm Jyoti is the effulgence of the body of Krishna. But the Mayavad philosophy or the Nirakar, of course, most of the philosophers are following this kind of teachings or the understanding, although the understanding is completely wrong and even they don't understand. If we ever get a chance to speak to a Mayavadi, you will be confused afterwards. What in the world is he talking about? So they don't understand. But the people who go to listen to these philosophers, of course, Prabhupada called them philosophers. They're not philosophers, they're fools. People who go to listen to them, they don't understand anything what these guys are talking about. But because they don't understand anything, they say the philosophy must be very high philosophy. That's why I don't understand. That's why I need to purify myself or elevate myself, upgrade myself to understand that philosophy. And there is no philosophy. Just like everything is one. So the blanket and the thread of the blanket must be one. So take the thread of the blanket and sleep. Try to sleep in the winter time, cold, when it is cold. Now they must be saying this coronavirus and I and Krishna, everybody is one. Then why is coronavirus affecting people? If everybody is one. If I am coronavirus, why am I getting affected by coronavirus? They cannot explain this. They'll say, I know what this is. They'll say, oh, this is my pastime. In this verse, it is clearly said that those who are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead speculate with their imperfect senses about the nature of the Absolute Truth. The formless Brahman conception, however, can be received only by oral reception and not by personal experience. Knowledge is therefore acquired by oral reception. It is confirmed in Vedanta Sutra, Shastra Unitvat. One has to acquire pure knowledge from the authorized scriptures. So-called speculative arguments about the absolute truth are therefore useless. The actual identity of the living entity is his consciousness, which is always present while the living entity is awake, dreaming, or in deep sleep. Even in deep sleep, he can perceive by consciousness whether he is happy or distressed. Thus, when consciousness is displayed through the medium of the subtle and gross material bodies, it is covered. But when the consciousness is purified in Krishna consciousness, one becomes free from the entanglement of repetitive birth and death. So they say everything is one. Everything merges into everything, and then some say it becomes nothing, some say it all becomes one blob. But here, Prabhupada is explaining the consciousness always remains, the soul always remains, retains its individuality. And just right now we have impure consciousness, and when we become purified, the consciousness remains, and we do activities which are in a purified state. When uncontaminated, pure knowledge is uncovered from the modes of material nature, the actual identity of the living entity is discovered. He is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is eternally a servitor. Jivera Swarupai Krishnera Nityadas. The process of uncovering is like this. The rays of sunshine are luminous, and the sun itself is also luminous. In the presence of the sun, the rays illuminate just like the sun. But when the sunshine is covered by the spell of a cloud or by Maya, then darkness, the imperfection of perception begins. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of the spell of nescience, one has to awaken his spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness in terms of the authorized scriptures. So that is why it's very important we study Prabhupada's books and make sure that we understand what's the underlying difference between Vaishnava philosophy and Mayavad philosophy. And do not get confused. See, when this verse appeared, which had little tinge of something about Mayavad that Prabhupada could explain properly. Prabhupada wrote such a long purport. Otherwise, he was just finishing it off in 1 or 2 paragraphs. But in this verse, he wrote long purport. And that, if you get a chance, or if we get a chance to discuss Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will see whenever any shloka has something that Prabhupada could explain properly about Mayavad philosophy. He had written purports which are 5, 6, 8 pages long. It's amazing. And by the time when we are reading the purport, you'll forget what the original shloka was. 8 pages, same shloka. Text 29. Yata mahanam rupastri panchvidah swarat ekadash vidastasya vapurandam jagadyataha. From the total energy, the Mahatattva, I have manifested the false ego, the 3 modes of material nature, the 5 material elements, the individual consciousness, the 11 senses, and the material body. Similarly, the entire universe has come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is described as Mahatpada, which means that the total material energy, known as the Mahatattva, is lying at its lotus feet. The origin or the total energy of cosmic manifestation is the Mahatattva. From the Mahatattva, all the other 24 divisions have sprung, namely 11 senses, including the mind, the 5 sense objects, the 5 material elements, and then consciousness, intelligence, and false ego. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a cause of the Mahatattva, and therefore, in one sense, because everything is an emanation from the Supreme Lord, there is no difference between the Lord and the cosmic manifestation. But at the same time, the cosmic manifestation is different from the Lord. The word Swarat is very significant here. Swarat means independent. The Supreme Lord is independent and the individual soul is also independent. Although there is no comparison between the qualities of independence. The living entity is minutely independent and the Supreme Lord is fully independent. So that is a prime difference between Krishna and all of us. And the material energy, which is energy, is Krishna's energy, but still it is different from the Lord. Okay. As an individual soul has a material body made of 5 elements and the senses, the Supreme Independent Lord similarly has a gigantic body of the universe. The individual body is temporary. Similarly, the entire universe, which is considered to be the body of the Supreme Lord, of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, is also temporary. And both the individual and the universal bodies are products of the Mahatattva. One has to understand the differences with intelligence. Everyone knows that his material body has developed from his spiritual spark. And similarly, the universal body has developed from the supreme spark, super soul. As the individual body develops from the individual soul, the gigantic body of the universe develops from the supreme soul. Just as the individual soul has consciousness, the supreme soul is also conscious. But although there is similarity between the consciousness of the Supreme Soul and the consciousness of the individual soul, the individual soul's consciousness is limited, whereas the consciousness of the Supreme Soul is unlimited. This is described in Bhagavad Gita, Kshetragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi. The Super Soul is present in every field of activity, just as the individual soul is present in the individual body. Both of them are conscious. The difference is that the individual soul is conscious of the individual body only, whereas the Supreme, with the Super Soul, is conscious of the total number of individual bodies. So Mahat Tattva, like Prabhupada explains in the beginning of the purport, it is resting at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And Mahat Tattva is the cause of the whole material creation. From Mahat Tattva comes all the 24 elements which manifest as so much of variety in the material world. So the Mayavadi philosophers who say this, the individual soul, Jivatma and Paramatma are the same, they don't understand. Jivatma has this little material body, which is whatever, 5'9" and has all the elements, all the organs, but it's a small body. Super soul, Paramatma, manifests himself as a universal body, which is also material and temporary. And but for us to understand this, that material, the universal body, Virat Rupa, that is different from our body. And we have read the description of Virat Rupa, how the trees are like the hairs of that universal form, and the rivers are like the veins, and the mountains are like the bones. But that's not how my body is formed. So there is a huge difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. And Jivatma, Prabhupada explains here, he's quoting Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, he only knows about his body. Even that we don't know completely and or perfectly. I don't know how all the organs of this body work, how the brain works, how everything else works. I don't even know. But the Supreme Lord, Super Soul, he knows all our bodies and he knows his universal body as well. Not just knows, he's controlling everything as well. So huge difference. So we are not Paramatma, we are just Jivatma, tiny Jivatma. Etadve Shraddhya Bhaktya Yogabhyasi Nityasha Samahitatmani Sangam Viraktya Paripashyati. This perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who is already engaged in devotion service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment, and who is always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme. He is aloof from material association. The atheistic mystic practitioner of yoga cannot understand this perfect knowledge. Only persons who engage in the practical activities of devotion service in full Krishna consciousness can become absorbed in full samadhi. It is possible for them to see and understand the actual fact of the entire cosmic manifestation and its cause. It is clearly stated here that this is not possible to understand for one who has not developed devotional service in full faith. The word samahitatma and samadhi are synonymous. So this whole knowledge can only be understood, can only be realized by a person who is engaged in devotion service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment. Otherwise, even the knowledge one has is not complete. That's why a few verses back there was this shloka, no? Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Bhakti Yoga Samolika. Jnanam, what was that? Jnanam Vairagyam. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Samolita. Gosh, I'm forgetting that verse. Janyati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. Janyati Ashu, very fast. He will, Janyati means it develops. Vairagya, Gyan and realization. Brahma Darshanam. Text 31. Iti etat kathitam gurvi jnanam tad brahm darshanam yenanu badhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha. My dear respected mother, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth, by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationship. Jnana yogascha manishto nirgunya bhakti lakshana dvayorapi eka evartha bhagavad shabd lakshana. Philosophical research culminates in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains a stage of devotion service, either by devotion service directly or by philosophical research. One has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many lives of philosophical research, the wise man ultimately comes to the point of knowing that Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is everything. And therefore he surrenders unto him. Such serious students in philosophical research are rare because they are very great souls. The verse says, so Mahatma Sudurlabha, they are very rare souls, great souls. If by philosophical research one cannot come to the point of understanding the Supreme Person, then his task is not finished. His search in knowledge is still to be continued until he comes to the point of understanding the Supreme Lord in devotional service. The opportunity for direct touch with the personality of Godhead is given in Bhagavad Gita, where it is also said that those who take to other processes, namely the process of philosophical speculation and mystic yoga practice, have much trouble. After many, many years of much trouble, a yogi or a wise philosopher may come to him, but his path is very troublesome, whereas the path of devotional service is easy for everyone. Path of philosophical research is difficult because how long we can sit down and try to study the scriptures and try to understand each and every word of the scripture from different points of angle. So difficult. But the path of devotional service is very easy for everyone. Not just easy, it's blissful. One enjoys being on the path of bhakti. One can achieve the result of wise philosophical speculation simply by discharging devotional service. And unless one reaches the point of understanding the personality of Godhead by his mental speculation, all his research work is said to be simply a labor of love. The ultimate destination of the wise philosopher is to merge in the impersonal Brahman, but that Brahman is a effulgence of the Supreme Person. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishthamaham. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is indestructible and is a supreme bliss. The Lord is the supreme reservoir of all pleasure, including Brahman pleasure. Therefore, one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of God is said to be already realized in impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. So philosophical research, so much of mental speculation is of no use. It's just Krishna, because he knows people will follow that path, so he has given so many scriptures. Okay, you study all this. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, do not study too many books. Prabhupada also said again and again, do not study too many books. Just Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar Devotion. These books are sufficient for us to make perfect progress and to go back to God. To understand the right philosophy, these books are more than sufficient. In fact, once he was with his servant Shutkirti Prabhu, and Prabhupada was reading Bhagavad Gita, his own Bhagavad Gita that he had written. And Prabhupada, after reading for a few minutes, he said, if anybody reads Bhagavad Gita, he can go back home back to God. If he reads perfectly. Then Shutkirti Prabhu said, once Prabhupada was reading Krishna book, which is translation of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada said, if anybody reads Krishna book, he can go back home back to God. Means all these books are perfect in themselves. Not just all these books. Every paragraph of, every purport of all these books are perfect. It's just we have to dive in with faith and with appreciation for Prabhupada, what he has given us. And then the meaning will be revealed to us by mercy of Krishna. And then when meanings are revealed to us, then there's nothing left to be known. Then you know everything. And that's when we become perfect. So we should read Prabhupada's books every single day, every day. Even if we read one paragraph, or one shloka, one page, whatever we read, we should read every day, apart from this class. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, out of these 24 hours, our mind is kind of covered with all material mode of nature in various forms. So how to divide this? How to divide this time of 24 hours so that the impact of this material mode of nature keep on reducing it, and the thought process of the conscious part of Krishna conscious or the transcendental aspect keep on increasing. What should be the daily routine kind of a thing?
See, suppose, I mean, out of this 24 hours, now there's lockdown and we are all sitting at home trying to work. And many times we try to go on the internet, Facebook, YouTube. Okay, I'll just do little bits searching here and there, and just to get my get some entertainment and then come back. So suppose then we go on the YouTube and then some movies we started to watch or something else. I'm just giving an example. And then we get engrossed in that. And then after 2 hours later, we realize, oh, I wasted my 2 hours. But why do we get so engrossed in that movie? Because we enjoy that.
Correct.
Which is fine. That's a function of the mind. But at the same time, scriptures say the enjoyment, the real nectar is in Krishna's name, Krishna Katha, Krishna Puja, Krishna Seva. But we are not enjoying that right now. That's why the mind goes towards the movies. Somehow or other, slowly, forcibly, by intelligence, we have to force our mind. Okay, not the movie, chanting. It's one book by Satsvarup Maharaj. He's written about the obstacles and the path of devotion service, and he talks about this mind. He said, mind is like a horse. When we are riding on a horse, we don't want to leave that lagam too loose, because then the horse will go here and there. And we cannot keep it too tight either, because then the horse won't go anywhere. So sometimes loosen up, sometimes tighten it up. Slowly, when the horse comes in control, when the horse understands this is what I have to do, then it is okay. So because right now our mind is not completely into bhakti, we cannot force it either fully. So sometimes let it go, but sometimes bring it back. No, chanting. Now it's the time for chanting. Okay, now it's time. Okay, you want to watch something. Okay, it's okay. But bring it back again. So it takes time. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. But this is the way I have understood.
Yeah, got it, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I have a question. Prabhuji, we talk of Mayavad and all this philosophy, and we also discussed today about them. So Prabhuji, basically, in fact, of course, I don't want to be in a situation where we kind of discuss or talk to Mayavad, but at the same time, who is the Mayavad, Prabhuji? Little confused. Reason being, in our office as well, I meet people, one who don't believe in God, and they will keep on talking all craps and nonsense. Then there are people who kind of go to Brahmakumaris and they would come and say, I don't know what they say. In fact, it doesn't make even any sense. So more than kind of pleasing, it irritates. So In fact, a real life example of people who are Mayavad, is it available, Prabhuji?
Well,
Just out
that's
of curiosity.
one. Brahmakumaris is one.
Acha, they're Mayavad. Na, haan, because
Oh,
when they talk,
yeah.
it
I
irritates
mean,
more.
see, I give example of Shivani Didi because till this point of Paramatma and all that, till that point, her talks are very nice. How to control the mind. Basically, it's how to control the mind. That's what she talks about. Yeah, means how to behave properly, how to develop this quality, that quality, qualities of goodness. Wonderful talks. So, not going into that philosophy of that I'm Paramatma or how the soul merges into Paramatma or whatever they talk about. If you don't go to that, up to that point it's good. But we have to know where to draw the line. And then Radhaswami, complete Mayavad. Shankaracharya, obviously, complete Mayavad. And then who else? This major ones. These are the major ones. If I remember somebody else, I can tell you. The way they present, of course, when you deal with the people who are following Radhaswami's sect nicely, they're wonderful people. Nothing wrong with them. The only thing is the philosophy is wrong. They're wonderful people to deal with. They work so hard for their sect, give so much of donation, talk wonderfully, they deal with people very nicely. Also Brahmakumaris, always ready to serve and help. Always. So that obviously that is very commendable and we should learn, we should try to emulate that. But only till that point. Don't go into the philosophy point.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for clarifying. And probably they don't worship any deities also, no? Because the deity they don't believe. That's the reason, no?
I'm losing you. I think you have to speak
I
up.
said, do they don't worship any deities also, isn't it, Prabhuji? I mean, a deity of Radha Krishna. Don't keep him because my office has
Even
got.
if they don't actually, but even if they do because of say family compulsions or something, they don't have the same mood or consciousness. Sometimes you will find Mayavadis they worshipping Radha Krishna or Sita Ram, but the aim is I will become Ram or I'll become Krishna. Some chant Hare Krishna also, but the aim is to become Krishna. So that's where the mistake is. So you got to be careful, that's all.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, what about art of living? Shri Ravi Shankar's.
He only talks about just the control of the mind. They don't talk about some ultimate destination. Breathing exercises, control of the mind. That's all they talk about, right? And another
Yes,
Mayavad
sir.
is Chinmaya mission, complete Mayavad. Aurobindo. But at the same time, people who follow them and they have a big following, all these different sects. We just understand, okay, their level of consciousness is that. So, okay, better to follow something than not to follow anything. And our duty, our job is to preach. Our duty is to give the mercy of Mahaprabhu to everybody. not to discriminate. No, no, I'm not going to see you. I'm not going to talk to you. No.
Prabhuji, I was part of, I used to attend Radha Swami's satsang. Initially, I followed them for 2-3 years. Just the, because when you are hungry, something is getting so taste developed. So it's like that you are eating a roti and you don't know what the lacha paratha is. So when you got a lacha paratha, you really realize that what is the difference between roti and a lacha paratha.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I can say, that because when I compare their philosophy and now whatever I'm understand now, I can correlate. Yes, they go up to a level of light, which is a Brahma Jyoti. They
Yep.
Their ultimate target is a Brahma Jyoti. They never go beyond that.
That's right. That's right.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So their followers, okay, they have that kind of consciousness, fine. And they're doing good work. They do wonderful work. That's fine. So all we have to do is just understand. Not, sometimes we become too fanatic and we start, no, 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 you're Mayavadi and you are Mayavadi, that is Mayavadi. Okay, I mean, we have to understand the philosophy, or we cannot hate a person. We just have to give the mercy of Mahaprabhu to everybody. That's all.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Since we are talking about Mayavadi, so
You have to speak up a little. We cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You are able to hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
I said the fanatics are there both in the Mayavadi camp as well as in the devotees camp. Now
Yeah.
the question, we are not arguing which is best, but of course these fanatics always have their say. They want to say that our path is the best. But when we meet somebody who is more fanatical than us, what should be our action? How we should act?
See, it depends. It depends. If you cannot argue philosophically and without offending anybody, just leave that place. We can easily say, oh, I'm not qualified. It's simple as that. And if we can give him some prasadam, why not?
Right. So,
It's just time, place, circumstance, you have to see, you have to decide.
right. So when we we meet some Mayavadis, they're more gentle. They don't push their philosophy very hard. Probably they are not very convinced themselves. But when they see the devotees of Krishna preaching without any knowledge also, like they see somebody who just joined the devotees, start preaching Bhagavad Gita or the philosophy of Bhagavatam, and they don't really know much. But looking at this Mayavadis sometimes get very curious. So, what is the devotee to do? He can leave the place and he can go. But even if he goes away, the Mayavadi is not satisfied. So you want to chase that fellow and beat him up. They're angry. Actually, they're very angry. They're very, I won't say, maybe they're very envious that these people are spreading like anything. Especially against ISKCON, we have so many people who are very envious. So even if we leave them and we want to avoid them, they don't want to leave us. They come and sit in our camp. They want to sit in our camp and see what we are doing. And after seeing it, they become very want to attack. But we don't do that such things. When we see somebody is Mayavad, we are not very. This philosophy is not so clear to us. So at least we don't follow and we don't go to their camps. Devotees don't go and do spying in their camps because we are very sure that what we believe is what we are convinced we are preaching. So we are not convinced about their philosophy, and we are not bothered how much they are preaching. They are preaching their philosophy very nicely. We are happy about it. But then they don't preach, and then when they see the devotees preaching, they get angry. So it sometimes become challenging to know what is to be done in such situations.
Yeah, sometimes there could be challenging situations. Just you have to do your best. That's all I can say. Every situation is different.
Okay. I just wanted to know what you would do. I'm sure you have met so many Mayavadis during your preaching career. So how I know you would have handled them very, very wonderfully well. I was not there to see it, but then probably you can give us some incidents from your own.
I just joke around and somehow go away from there. That's what I would do.
Sometimes whatever they're preaching, when we say Mayavad, they become very angry. I don't know, that word, when they hear that word, they become very angry.
But that is the philosophy. I mean, we are not saying anything wrong.
Yeah.
This is the philosophy that they
But
preach.
they call that philosophy themselves as Mayavad. They don't call, I think.
They call Advaitvad.
Advaita. So when
It's
they call it Mayavad, they become so angry and they feel that we are offending Shankaracharya because Shankaracharya is the one who preached that philosophy, and they think that we are offending Shankaracharya, and then they become angry. We are not calling them names, or we are not abusing them. We have given a name to that philosophy because it is Maya. So, but then they are not ready to accept it, and just when we say this person is preaching Maya's philosophy, they become angry. But we are not
because they themselves haven't understood the philosophy then.
in fact, we have not used this term at all. The devotees sometimes use it, but then I never use that philosophy. Even when proper books there are mentioned about this, when we read, we keep quiet about that topic. We find somebody with an inclination to Mayavad philosophy. So, but still, when they hear this word, they become very agitated, and then they wanted to attack the devotee. So the devotee has not done any harm. They just become angry with Prabhupada, and why Prabhupada is talking about. But all of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is talking so many glories of Krishna that they don't want to listen. They only want to catch on this point, and then they say, why you are attacking us.
Yeah, actually, Mayavad doesn't mean that the Brahmavad is Maya. It actually what it means is they say everything is made up of Maya. Everything is Maya. Illusion. That's what Mayavad is. But that's what it is.
That's what it is.
I know it's difficult for them to understand, or it's because they themselves haven't understood Shankaracharya's philosophy.
Yeah, just strictly follow. We all followed so many philosophies in our life. I also used to go and listen to them so much. There was a time, but I never found anything wrong at that time because I didn't reach that level. Even in devotional service, there is so much to learn. We have just come to the shore of the ocean, and we just have ocean to explore. So I cannot tell that I'm just fixed up in this philosophy also. But then I found that this is more deep. This is like ocean, and Mayavad is like a pond. Just little bit of knowledge, and then they become so fucked up. And here you become so humble because you see devotees are so knowledgeable, so deep in their realizations and knowledge. They are like ocean.
Yeah, that's what it is.
like when I came in contact with devotees, when I read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, I said there is nothing more. I have to do just this one book. If I read for whole life, I will be very happy and perfect. But when I was also reading Mayavadi philosophy, I also read so many books also. But then afterwards, when I read devotional literature, I became so attached to this. But I'm wondering why so many people who are now associated with this Mayavadi institutions, when they get a chance to read Prabhupada's books also, they become angry rather than becoming enlightened. What is this difference?
Not everybody. Some people become devotees also.
Yeah, a lot of them, like, I know a lot of them become devotees also. But
So
some of them,
it's only matter of agyat sukriti, how much sukriti they have.
okay.
And if they have enough, they will appreciate Prabhupada's books properly.
Right.
So now as devotees, if we can, see again, less wounded soldier versus more wounded soldier. If it is less wounded, we try to give him some prasadam, somehow try to create his agyat sukriti. Even if I don't have any knowledge, at least I can help in making his agyat sukriti, so he can appreciate Prabhupada's books better.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, it's too late, Prabhuji. Just one last question. Prabhuji,
Yes,
in fact, beyond all these two, in fact, I have come across one more category, at least in our offices, in fact, people who actually have, I don't know whether they have knowledge or no, it will be wrong on my part to say they have no knowledge, but people who are not willing to uh, believe beyond Sai Baba, or at max, in fact, they will do this Navratri Matarani. So not beyond Sai Baba. Are they Mayavads? Because they don't even know anything beyond that. They don't want to kind of explore anything beyond that. They say
no,
Krishna, to other.
they're more like karm kandis. So that's okay. Everybody is on a different level. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we were not devotees always, even in this lifetime. So somebody showed his mercy and gave us the book and this and that. Everybody has different level of consciousness, so they'll take their own time. It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
True, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Sorry we took a lot of the time.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Ratan.
Okay, so you all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.